Nothing changes until you start acting like the person you say you want to be. Most people think they need to feel confident, motivated, or ready before they take action. That's the biggest lie. The truth is, you won't feel ready. And if you wait for that perfect feeling, you'll waste months or years doing nothing. If you want to level up your life, you have to stop acting like who you've been and start acting like the person you want to become right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. You already know what you need to do. You've just been putting it off, hoping to feel different before you begin. This video is a wake-up call. No hype, no fluff, just straight talk that gets into your head and pushes you forward. If you're tired of feeling stuck and you're done making excuses, this is for you. Because once you start acting different, everything around you starts changing too. Keep watching. Chapter 1. Stop lying to yourself and start doing the work. You know what stops most people from living the life they want? It's not the world, it's not the economy, it's not their background or their upbringing. It's the habit of lying to themselves. And here's what I mean. People say they want to change, but their actions say something else. They say they want success, but they don't do the work. They say they're serious, but they make excuses. They say they're ready, but they keep waiting for the right time. There's no progress in lying to yourself. There's no growth in pretending. And the truth is, deep down, you already know what you're avoiding. You already know what needs to change, and you already know the exact habits, decisions, and behaviors that are holding you back. You know what they are. You feel them every day. They show up in your regrets. They show up in your guilt. They show up when you look in the mirror and say, "I'll do better tomorrow." And tomorrow comes, and what happens? You repeat the same pattern. That's where the real pain is. The pain of knowing you're capable of more, but not doing anything about it. That's not just frustrating. That's soul-crushing. That's how people lose themselves. Not in one day, but one excuse at a time, one skipped effort at a time, one promise broken to yourself at a time. You don't need motivation. You don't need more videos. You don't need someone to hype you up. What you need is to face the truth. And the truth is this: if you're not acting like the person you want to become, then you're lying to yourself about what you really want. Because wanting is not enough. Everybody wants something. Few are willing to pay the price. You see, success is not about dreaming. It's about discipline. It's about choices. It's about building the habits that match the results you say you want. And those habits are not always exciting. Most of the time, they're uncomfortable. That's why most people avoid them. They think they can cheat the process. They think they can stay the same and still end up with a different life. But life doesn't work that way. The person who wants more has to become more. The person who wants a new result has to take new actions. And that begins when you stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself you don't have time. The truth is, you do. You just don't use it right. You scroll, you wait, you talk about what you're going to do, but you don't actually do it. Time is not the problem. Your choices are. Stop telling yourself you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow is a lie you've told yourself too many times. You've said tomorrow so often that it's lost all meaning. The only thing real is right now. What you do today is what shapes who you become, not what you hope, not what you plan, what you do. Stop telling yourself you're not ready. That's the biggest lie of all. Nobody feels ready. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's the moment you say enough is enough. It's the moment you say, I'm done being stuck. It's the moment you stop waiting and start showing up. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just stuck in a pattern. And the way out of that pattern is by doing the work, day by day. No shortcuts, no games, just honest effort. So what does doing the work look like? It means you start waking up on time, even when you feel tired. It means you finish what you start, even when it's boring. It means you say no to things that waste your energy. It means you train your mind to focus when it wants to drift. It means you keep your promises to yourself, not once in a while, every single day. And no, it's not always going to feel good. It's not always going to be easy. You're going to want to quit. You're going to want to go back to comfort. But that's the exact moment you grow. That's the exact moment you separate yourself from the average. Because anyone can work when it's easy. But the person who keeps showing up when it's hard, that's the person who changes their life. You don't need to do it all at once. You don't need a perfect plan. What you need is a clear decision that you're done lying to yourself, that you're done playing small, that you're done talking and ready to act. You know what's crazy? Once you actually start doing the work, something changes inside you. You begin to feel better. Not because the work is easy, but because you're finally being honest. You're finally being the person you were meant to be. You look yourself in the mirror, and for the first time in a long time, you feel proud. Not because you reached the goal, but because you're doing the work that deserves the goal. That's where confidence comes from. That's where real self-respect is built. Not from praise, not from people noticing, but from knowing you're finally living the way you said you would. You're finally taking control. So if you're tired of starting over, stop quitting. If you're tired of being stuck, move. If you're tired of feeling like you're falling behind, do something different today, not next week, not when you feel inspired, not when life gets easier. Today. Right now. Because waiting to feel ready is the trap. It's how people waste years. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for clarity. They wait for support. But here's what you need to understand. Action brings clarity. Discipline builds belief. And hard work creates opportunity. You don't get what you want by wishing. You get it by working. You don't become the person you admire by watching them. You become that person by becoming disciplined like them, focused like them, consistent like them. And you know what the best part is? Every day is a new chance. Every single day you wake up with the power to decide, to show up, to take control, to stop lying, to start doing. But if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. So the question is, are you finally ready to stop the cycle? Are you ready to look yourself in the eye and say, no more excuses. I'm done wasting time. I'm done pretending. I'm ready to become who I was meant to be. Because that's when everything changes. When you stop lying to yourself, you stop settling. When you stop lying to yourself, you stop hiding. When you stop lying to yourself, you finally start doing the work. And the work, it's not punishment, it's freedom. It's the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. So start. Not tomorrow, not later, now. That's how you build a life you're proud of. That's how you become the person you want to be. You stop lying to yourself, and you start doing the work. Chapter 2. Act like the person who earns real results. If you want real results, you have to start acting like the person who earns them. Not the person who only talks about goals, not the one who starts and stops, not the one who dreams without discipline, but the one who actually gets results through action. That version of you already exists. You just haven't stepped into that identity fully yet. You can't just want the life. You have to move like it, think like it, and behave like it now. Look at the way successful people carry themselves, the way they plan, the way they protect their time, the way they push through challenges. They're not waiting around to feel confident. They're not hoping someone gives them permission. They've built themselves into the kind of person that does what's required, even when it's difficult. And if you want results, you have to adopt the same mindset. You have to hold yourself to that level of seriousness every single day. That means your actions have to match your goals. If you say you want to build a better life, you can't keep doing the same things that gave you the life you're trying to change. If you say you're ready to grow, you can't keep making the same choices that keep you stuck. Real growth starts when you stop acting based on comfort and start acting based on who you want to become. Ask yourself, how does that person think? How do they spend their time? How do they talk to people? How do they handle stress? How do they deal with setbacks? If you're not asking those questions, you're not serious about becoming that person. You're just hoping change happens on its own, and it never will. That version of you, the one who earns results, has already figured out what to stop doing. They've stopped making excuses. They've stopped skipping the work. They've stopped wasting their mornings. They've stopped letting emotions run the show. They've learned that results don't care how you feel today. Results only come when you act no matter what. That's who you need to be now. The hardest part isn't learning more. The hardest part is doing what you already know. You already know what needs to be done. You just haven't made it your identity yet. The person who earns results isn't perfect. They're consistent. They show up when it's boring. They stay focused when it's tempting to give up. They keep moving when progress feels slow. When you wake up each morning, you have two options. Act like the version of yourself who settles, or act like the version of yourself who executes. One of them leads to regret. The other leads to results. You can't live both lives. You have to choose. Look around at your daily routine. What are your mornings like? What's the first thing you do when you get out of bed? Do you move with purpose, or do you drift into distraction? And when fate is, do you start your day with action, or do you wait for motivation to magically appear? The person who gets results doesn't wait. They start, not because it's easy, but because they made a decision to act like their future already matters now. There's no perfect time. There's no guaranteed plan. There's only you and the work you're willing to do. And every day you delay is a day stolen from your own progress. Every time you tell yourself, I'll start later, what you're really saying is, I'm okay staying the same. But you're not okay staying the same. That's why you feel the frustration. That's why you feel the restlessness. That's why something inside you knows this isn't enough. You want more because you know you're capable of more. But that capability only turns into real results when you start living like the person who deserves them. Think about what that version of you would do right now. Would they be sitting there scrolling? Would they be stuck in worry? Or would they be planning their next move, locking in their habits, staying focused on what matters most? You don't build results by talking about discipline. You build them by living with discipline. That means being on time. That means following through on your promises. That means learning to say no. That means pushing through boredom, stress, and setbacks without giving up. The version of you who earns real results knows how to stay locked in even when things don't go as planned. You won't always feel like it. That's part of the game. But the person who earns results isn't moved by feelings. They're moved by vision. They know where they're going, and that matters more than what they feel in a single moment. Every time you make the decision to act like that person, something in you grows. Your belief gets stronger, your focus sharpens, your self-respect builds, and soon you won't need to pretend. You'll be living it for real. But you can't fake this process. You can't shortcut your way to progress. You can't talk your way into results. You have to show up. Not once, not when it's convenient. Every day, every single time you feel resistance, you show up anyway. That's the difference. That's what separates those who get results from those who wish for them. There's no need to be perfect, but you must be intentional. You must become so clear about the kind of person you're becoming that you don't let distractions pull you off track. When people say it's too hard, you stay committed. When you don't get applause, you keep working. When it takes longer than you thought, you adjust and keep going. The person who earns real results doesn't chase comfort. They create structure. They control their mindset. They use their time well. They build routines that work even when motivation fades. They don't need someone else to tell them to work. They remind themselves why they started. You know what's powerful? When your actions and your identity match. When you no longer say, "I hope this works," but instead say, "I'm doing what it takes." That shift, that mental decision, is what makes you unstoppable. Because now you're not relying on chance. You're operating from clarity, from conviction, from commitment. There's no secret formula. There's just the truth. Act like the person who earns real results. That's who you have to become. And not in some distant future. Right now. Start thinking like them. Start organizing your time like them. Start speaking like them. Start behaving like them. Because that's how change actually begins. Not with inspiration, but with alignment. You won't feel confident at first. That's okay. Confidence grows when your actions and intentions stay in sync. And the more you keep showing up, the more you realize something powerful. You're not pretending anymore. You're becoming. Every step counts. Every choice matters. Every hour you use well brings you closer. And every day you act like the person who earns real results, your old habits lose their grip. Your old mindset starts to fade, and a new standard gets set. Soon, you won't just be chasing the results. You'll be living the lifestyle that creates them. And that's where your life transforms, not because someone gave you a chance, but because you gave yourself one. You don't have to wait. You don't need more time. You need to decide. You need to act. You need to live today like it actually matters, because it does. The person you want to become is waiting, but not forever. And every day you hesitate is a day you could have used to move forward. So no more hoping. No more talking. No more waiting. Act like the person who earns real results, and your life will finally start to change.
Chapter 3. Face your fears instead of hiding behind delay. Every person carries fears, some louder than others, some hidden under layers of excuses, but they're there, and most people don't realize it, but those fears shape their entire life. Not because fear is stronger than them, but because they've learned to avoid it instead of facing it. They delay decisions, they avoid actions, they wait for the fear to shrink. But that's the trap. Fear doesn't go away with time. It grows when you let it lead. Every delay, every excuse, every "I'll do it later" is just another way of saying, "I'm scared and I don't want to face it." And if you keep hiding behind delay, you'll build a life that looks nothing like the one you could have had. Fear wins when you choose comfort over growth. It wins every time you walk away from doing what you know you need to do. It wins every time you convince yourself that next week, next month, or next year will somehow feel easier. The truth is, it won't. There's no perfect moment coming. There's no future where the fear disappears on its own. The only way to shrink fear is to walk into it. Avoiding it only gives it power, but when you move toward it, something changes. you begin to realize that the worst part was never the thing itself. The worst part was the way you let it control your decisions. There are people who spend their whole lives stuck in the same place. Not because they lack potential, not because they're not smart, but because they let fear drive their choices. They fear failure, so they never start. They fear judgment, so they keep quiet. They fear change, so they keep repeating the same mistakes. And the saddest part is they know what they're doing. They just feel frozen. But fear doesn't break with more thinking. It breaks with movement. It breaks the moment you stop running and face it. What fear are you avoiding right now? You know the one. Maybe it's starting over. Maybe it's speaking up. Maybe it's leaving comfort behind. Maybe it's going after something you want but you're scared to admit it out loud. You don't need more time to think about it. You need to stop letting it bully you into waiting. Fear likes when you play small. It likes when you stay safe. It likes when you avoid risk. But everything you want lives on the other side of facing it. You'll never find confidence by hiding. You'll never find peace by postponing. The only way to build strength is by stepping through discomfort, not around it. Think about how many times you've told yourself, "I'll do it when I'm ready." But let's be honest, how often did that ready ever come? It's not about being ready. It's about being willing. Willing to feel the discomfort. Willing to be seen. Willing to feel uncertain and still act anyway. That's how real progress happens. Not when things are perfect, but when you decide that fear is not a reason to stop. People often wait for confidence before they take action. But confidence is not something you get in advance. It's something you earn by doing the thing you're afraid of. You build belief by showing yourself that fear doesn't control you. And every time you do that, you get stronger. Not just once, but again and again, until courage becomes part of who you are. There will never be a moment when fear disappears completely. It will show up in different ways at different stages of life. But the goal isn't to live without fear. The goal is to stop letting it choose for you. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to stop hiding behind it. Most fear isn't even real danger. It's mental resistance. It's your brain trying to keep you in the known. But growth never happens in the known. Growth only begins when you step into uncertainty and trust yourself to handle it. Look at the areas in your life where you've been stuck the longest. Chances are there's a fear you haven't faced. And maybe it's been there so long that it feels normal. But that fear is the wall between where you are and where you could be. And the longer you avoid it, the thicker that wall becomes. You've got to take the power back. That means doing the thing you've been putting off. Making the phone call, having the hard conversation, applying for the thing you think you're not good enough for, changing the habit that makes you feel safe but keeps you small, taking the first step without knowing all the answers. Fear is not a signal to stop. It's a signal that what you're about to do matters, that it's worth doing, that it's worth doing, and you'll never get better at facing it unless you start doing it regularly. Make it part of your identity. Not just someone who dreams, but someone who acts. Someone who moves forward even with a nervous heart and shaky hands. You don't have to do it all at once, but you do have to stop waiting. Every fear you face weakens the pattern that kept you stuck, and every delay strengthens it. This is how people build a life filled with regret. They spend years waiting for the fear to disappear, only to realize they gave it the best years of their life. There's nothing more painful than looking back and realizing the only thing that held you back was hesitation. Not failure, not rejection, just hesitation. And hesitation is a choice. But so is courage. You already know what it feels like to stay stuck. You already know what it feels like to keep waiting. That path leads nowhere. But the moment you decide to lean into your fear, everything starts to change. Your energy shifts. Your mind opens. Your confidence starts to rebuild, not from words but from evidence. You begin to trust yourself, not because everything goes perfectly, but because you proved you can handle it. You proved that you're not the same person you used to be. You're not a prisoner to fear. You're a person who acts in spite of it. Most people don't reach their goals because they think too much and act too little. They convince themselves they need more preparation. But preparation without action turns into procrastination. And that's how fear disguises itself, as logic, as planning, as waiting. You have to wake up and face it directly. Not tomorrow, not next month, now. And when you do, you'll realize that most of the things you were scared of were never as big as they felt. They just grew in your mind the longer you delayed. That's how you take your life back, not by being fearless, but by becoming more willing to walk forward anyway. The more you practice facing fear, the less power it holds. The more you act with courage, the more you become the kind of person who can't be stopped by discomfort. You owe it to yourself to stop hiding. You owe it to your future to stop waiting. You owe it to your goals to stop letting fear decide who you become. You were not made to play small. You were not made to avoid growth. You were built to lead your own life, not to be pushed around by what scares you. It's time to step forward, one action at a time, one decision at a time, one small act of courage at a time. And as you keep showing up, your fears won't disappear, but they will lose their grip. You'll stop feeling stuck. You'll stop questioning your worth. You'll stop looking for the right moment and start making your own. And that's how change happens, not by avoiding fear, but by doing the one thing most people never do. You face it, you step into it, and you move through it. That's when your life finally opens up. That's when you become the person you were meant to be, because you stopped hiding, and you finally chose to rise.
Chapter 4. Take uncomfortable steps that force real personal change. Real change doesn't come from comfort. It never has. It never will. Change comes when you do the things you've been avoiding. The things that make you nervous. The steps that feel awkward. The actions that challenge your habits. If you keep waiting for growth to feel easy, you'll never grow. You'll keep repeating the same routines, feeling stuck in the same place, pretending to make progress, but never really moving forward. The truth is, the progress you want is hiding behind the exact things you don't want to do. You can read all the books, you can listen to all the advice, but until you do something uncomfortable, something that shakes up your usual patterns, you're not going to change. You'll feel inspired for a moment. You might even make a plan, but real personal change only happens when you're willing to take steps that stretch you, not just once, but again and again. Because the only way to grow is to act in ways that don't feel natural at first. It might be waking up earlier than you ever have. It might be cutting off someone who drains your energy. It might be admitting you've been wrong. It might be starting over in a way that feels scary. None of those things are easy. That's the point. They're not supposed to be. That's why most people don't do them. Most people keep searching for an easier way, but there isn't one. You don't get stronger by repeating what's familiar. You grow when you're willing to step into something that makes you feel exposed, unsure, or even a little lost, and that's what stops people. They confuse discomfort with danger, but they're not the same. Discomfort means you're doing something different. Danger means you're at risk. You're not at risk by waking up earlier. You're not in danger by having a hard conversation. You're just uncomfortable. And the more you run from that feeling, the more stuck you stay. If you want real personal change, you have to earn it. That means trading ease for effort. That means showing up when it's inconvenient. That means pushing through resistance,
instead of letting it decide for you. You've got to ask yourself, what step am I avoiding because I don't want to feel uncomfortable? Whatever your answer is, that's probably the next thing you need to do. You can't transform your life by staying in the same mindset, doing the same routines, and thinking the same thoughts. You have to interrupt your patterns. You have to do things that cause a shift. Even if it's small, it counts. Because once you prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort, your confidence changes. Not from outside praise, but from inner proof. You become someone who no longer backs down when something feels hard. The challenge is that your mind will try to protect you. It will whisper things like, you don't need to do this today, or there's still time, or this is too much right now. And if you listen, you'll stay where you are. Because the mind isn't built for growth, it's built for safety. But if you want something better, you have to stop listening to the voice that wants you to stay the same. Every time you act in a way that your old self wouldn't, you move closer to real change. Maybe it's going to the gym even when your energy is low. Maybe it's turning off your phone and focusing. Maybe it's staying disciplined when nobody's watching. These moments matter more than you think, because every one of those uncomfortable steps reprograms your brain. You stop being someone who hopes and start becoming someone who acts. And yes, it's going to feel messy. It's going to feel awkward. You'll probably feel like you're doing it wrong at first. But that's what growth looks like. Nobody becomes great without stumbling through the beginning. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing to go through the part that feels rough. Most people aren't. That's why they never change. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself that things will change when you get in the right mindset? But here's the truth. The right mindset shows up after the uncomfortable action, not before. Waiting for the perfect mindset is just another delay. It's another trick your comfort zone uses to keep you still. What you need is not the perfect mindset. What you need is a clear reason to keep going when it feels tough. When you tie your actions to a reason that matters, you stop negotiating with discomfort. You stop backing down when the work gets hard. You stay consistent because you know who you're becoming on the other side. And that's how you move from wanting to becoming. Not through comfort, but through challenge. Look at your life right now. What areas feel stuck? Where are you repeating the same pattern, even though you know it's not helping you? That's the space that needs a change. But not a surface-level change. A real one. The kind that shifts your identity. The kind that forces you to become someone who no longer tolerates average effort or low standards. That means doing things that make you sweat mentally. That means standing in situations that stretch your patience and discipline. That means learning to keep going when everything in you says, just take a break. And when you build that habit, when you become the person who takes uncomfortable steps by default, you don't just change what you do, you change who you are. Your identity shifts. You stop saying, I'm trying to improve. You start living like someone who improves daily. You stop saying, I hope I get better. You start showing up in ways that make you better. And soon, you'll look back and realize that everything started changing when you chose to lean into what felt difficult. The people who grow fast are not the ones who feel less fear. They're the ones who don't let that fear stop them. They don't need everything to feel smooth. They need it to be meaningful. And they understand that growth is not a mood. It's a choice. You don't have to feel like improving. You have to decide that staying the same is no longer acceptable. If you're serious about building a better life, then every day you wake up, you need to ask yourself one question. What uncomfortable step am I willing to take today? And then do it. Even if it's small. Even if nobody sees it. Even if it doesn't feel productive in the moment. The value is not always in the result. The value is in who you become by doing it. You'll never know your potential until you start stepping outside of what's easy. You'll never feel strong until you train yourself to push through what feels awkward. And the only way to do that is to make discomfort part of your process. Not something to fear, something to respect, something to welcome. Because it's the sign that you're growing. It's the sign that you're not who you used to be. You can keep chasing comfortable habits, but they won't give you a different future. Or you can choose the harder path, the one that asks more of you, the one that challenges your limits, the one that forces you to evolve. And if you choose that path, you'll earn the kind of change that lasts. So don't wait for motivation. Don't hope for easier days. Don't expect the fear to disappear. Just start stepping. Step into the early morning discipline. Step into the honest feedback. Step into the uncomfortable conversation. Step into the new routine that demands more focus. Step into the version of you that doesn't quit when things feel off. This is where transformation begins. Not with a perfect plan, not with a perfect moment, but with a step you don't want to take, and taking it anyway. Do it once, and you'll see what you're capable of. Do it daily, and your entire life will change. And when that happens, you won't need to convince anyone. You won't need to prove yourself. You'll walk with the quiet confidence of someone who took the hard steps and earned the real change. That's how you rise. That's how you rebuild. That's how you grow into someone you truly respect. One uncomfortable step at a time.
Chapter 5. Do things now that you keep avoiding daily. You already know what you need to do. It's not a mystery. It's not hidden. It's not unclear. Every day the same things sit on your mind. The same tasks stay on your list. The same actions you know will move your life forward keep getting skipped. Not because they're impossible. Not because they take too much time, but because they're uncomfortable or boring, or they force you to grow, so you delay them. You push them off until later. You keep telling yourself you'll get to them soon, but soon becomes someday, and someday becomes never. That's how progress dies. Not with a decision to quit, but with small delays that pile up day after day. The truth is, the life you want is being blocked by the tasks you keep ignoring, the calls you avoid, the habits you skip, the responsibilities you pretend aren't urgent. And deep down you feel the weight of it. You know you're capable of doing better. You know those tasks are not beyond your reach. But instead of doing them, you bury them under distractions. You convince yourself that you need a little more time, that you'll be in the right headspace tomorrow. But the right headspace doesn't show up until you start moving. Waiting doesn't bring clarity. Action does. There is a silent cost to avoidance. It's not loud. It doesn't scream at you, but it shows up in how you feel about yourself. It shows up in that heaviness you carry. It shows up in the way you stop trusting your own word. Because every time you avoid what matters, you teach yourself that your comfort is more important than your commitment. And over time, you lose confidence. Not because you failed, but because you stop trying. People always ask, how do I build discipline? The answer is simple. Do the things you keep avoiding. Not when it feels right. Not when you feel motivated. Do them now. Do them because they matter. Do them because they're the path out of the cycle you're stuck in. Discipline doesn't grow by accident. It grows when you start choosing what's necessary over what's easy. When you stop waiting for the mood to strike, and you decide that action comes first. Look at your day. Really look at it. What are the tasks you keep skipping? Maybe it's going for that walk. Maybe it's sitting down and planning your week. Maybe it's writing that message you've been putting off.
Maybe it's turning off distractions and finally starting that personal project. Whatever it is, you know it's been on your mind for too long. And the longer you avoid it, the more power it holds over you. Avoidance grows anxiety. Every time you delay something important, you don't get relief, you get pressure. You think you're giving yourself a break, but you're only adding to the stress that follows you through the day. That stress isn't coming from the task itself, it's coming from the fact that you're not facing it. But once you do, everything shifts. When you sit down and complete what you've been avoiding, you take your power back. You stop being owned by hesitation. You stop being controlled by mental clutter, and something in you lifts. You feel lighter, clearer, more capable, not because the task was enjoyable, but because you kept your word to yourself. That's what real strength looks like. Not in big moments, but in small, invisible choices. Choosing to send the message, choosing to finish the task, choosing to face what you've avoided all week. Those are the decisions that shape your life. They don't look impressive. Nobody claps for you when you finally clean your space or follow through on your promise. But those moments are everything. They're the foundation of your identity. And if you keep skipping them, your identity weakens. If you keep doing them, your identity strengthens. You don't need to wait for a breakthrough. You don't need a reset or a new beginning. You need to handle what's already waiting for you. Stop making plans and start making moves. Start with what you've been ignoring. That's the starting point. That's how you build momentum. Don't wait until you feel like it. That feeling might never come. The longer you sit in delay, the more likely you are to lose the drive completely. So act fast. Start now, before your mind starts talking you out of it again. The people who get ahead are not the ones who enjoy every task. They're the ones who stop overthinking and do the thing anyway. And yes, it might feel annoying. It might feel uncomfortable. But on the other side of that action is clarity. On the other side of that task is pride. That's what you're really chasing. You're not chasing ease. You're chasing the feeling of knowing you're no longer betraying yourself, because that's what avoidance is. It's self-betrayal. It's letting comfort decide your day. And the more you do that, the more your standards slip. The more you stop trusting your own voice. And eventually you stop believing that real change is even possible. But it is. And it starts with the decision to stop putting things off. Stop telling yourself, I'll do it later. Later is a trap. Later turns into never. The only time that matters is now. That's where your power lives. That's where your growth happens. You don't rise by watching others do the work. You rise by facing what's in front of you. Even if it's boring, even if it's difficult, even if it's something you failed at before. This time you do it anyway. This time you don't run from it. There's freedom in action. When you do the things you've avoided, your mind quiets down, your stress drops, your energy returns. You don't need a perfect day. You need to take the step that breaks the pattern. That's how you create real progress. One task at a time, one choice at a time. So what are you avoiding today? You already know the answer. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just start. Do it fully. Do it even if it's not perfect. Finish it, and then feel what it's like to be someone who actually gets things done. Someone who follows through. Someone who shows up even when it's hard. That's the person who builds momentum. That's the person who transforms their life. Not the one who waits for energy. Not the one who looks for shortcuts. But the one who says, this needs to get done. And I'm doing it now. You are not stuck. You're just avoiding the actions that would move you forward. You are not lazy. You're just trapped in the habit of delay. And habits can be broken, but not by thinking, by doing, by choosing action over excuse. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect. That doesn't mean you can't have slow days. But even on a slow day, you can finish one thing you've been avoiding. You can take one step, and that's enough to change the direction of your day. Do the thing now, not because you feel ready, but because avoiding it is costing you peace, because ignoring it is draining your energy, because putting it off is damaging your self-respect. Start small if you have to, but start. Make it a rule for yourself. When something important comes up, handle it, not later, now. Build that muscle. Strengthen that part of you that acts quickly, that doesn't delay, that doesn't wait for the stars to align. The more you do that, the more you'll trust yourself, the more you'll believe in your ability to finish, the more your confidence will come from action, not hype. This is how your life changes. Not by doing big things once in a while, but by doing the things you keep avoiding every day. That's how you move forward. That's how you take control. And it all starts now, not tomorrow, not when it's easier. Now, the tasks are waiting. So is your better life. Get to it.
Chapter 6. Control your day before it controls your mind. Most people lose the day before it even begins. They wake up without a plan. They reach for their phone. They get pulled into notifications, messages, noise, and distractions before they've even taken a breath with intention. And what happens next? The day takes over. One thing after another, pulling them in every direction but forward. They're reacting, not leading. They're chasing, not building. And they wonder why they feel drained, scattered, and off track. It's because they never took control. The day started leading them, and their mind followed. If you don't control your day, your mind won't be your own. You'll think about things that don't matter. You'll stress over things you can't control. You'll let other people's priorities push yours to the side. You'll feel behind, even if nothing urgent is happening. That's how it starts. You tell yourself you'll get back on track later, but the momentum is already lost, and without momentum, nothing important gets done. Your mind becomes busy, but not productive. You feel tired, but not fulfilled. Control starts early. It starts the moment you open your eyes. What you do in those first minutes sets the tone for everything else. If you start in a rush, the day feels like pressure. If you start in stillness and focus, the day feels like yours. That's not a small detail. That's the foundation, and too many people ignore it. They move through the morning with no direction. And because they didn't decide how the day would go, everything else decides for them. You don't need a complicated routine. You need structure. You need to take responsibility for how your time is used. You need to stop saying, "I didn't have time," and start realizing, "I gave my time away." That shift changes everything. Because time is not something that disappears. It's something that gets traded. Every time you check your phone without thinking, that's a trade. Every time you scroll out of boredom, that's a trade. Every time you let your attention get hijacked, that's a trade. And the more you make those trades, the less power you have over your own life. The people who build strong lives are not working more hours than everyone else. They're not superhuman. They're just intentional. They guard their time. They plan their day before the world has a chance to plan it for them. They decide what matters most, and they focus on it first. They don't start their day in chaos and expect to find clarity later. They start in clarity, so they can handle the chaos when it comes. The truth is, your mind needs direction. If you don't give it something to focus on, it will grab onto whatever shows up first. Usually that's distractions. Usually that's other people's problems. Usually that's negativity and comparison. But when you set your own rhythm, you stay in control. You start becoming the one who decides how the day feels, not the one who waits to see what happens. That decision starts with discipline. Not in a harsh way, not in a rigid way, but in a responsible way. You wake up and you move with purpose. You decide how you want to feel. You decide what matters most. You pick the one or two things that will move you forward, and you give them your best energy.
not your leftover energy, not your tired hours at the end of the day. You put them first. When you start putting your priorities first, your whole mindset changes. You feel clearer, you feel stronger, you stop needing motivation to get started, because now you've built momentum. You've proven to yourself that you're in charge, not your emotions, not your schedule, not the noise. There's nothing magical about this. It's not about waking up at 5 a.m. or copying someone else's morning habits. It's about owning your day before it owns you. It's about looking at your life and asking, who's in charge here? Because if it's not you, then your goals will stay out of reach. Your dreams will keep getting delayed. Your energy will stay scattered. And that's not a time problem. That's a focus problem. Take 5 minutes each morning to plan. That's it. 5 minutes. Sit down and ask yourself, what are the 3 things that matter most today? Not 50 things. Just 3. That forces clarity. That forces you to think, and then give your best time to those 3 things. Everything else is secondary. You'll be amazed how different your life feels when you stop letting the day decide for you. When you stop being reactive. When you start each day knowing exactly what you're showing up for. That kind of clarity is rare, but it's available to anyone who's willing to slow down and take control. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. One day at a time, you take ownership, and soon you'll notice you're not tired from the chaos anymore. You're energized by the structure you created. Your mind is quieter because your time is being used with purpose. Your decisions are sharper because you're not overwhelmed by noise. This doesn't mean your days will be smooth. Life will still be unpredictable. But when the storm comes, you'll be ready, because you're not running behind. You're not lost in tasks that don't matter. You're grounded in what matters most. You've already done the real work. You've already moved the needle forward. Most stress comes from misused time, from letting hours pass without direction, from hoping that things will work out, even though you never took the lead. But you have the power to change that. Every morning is a chance to reset. Every hour is a chance to return to what matters. You're never too late to take back control. You'll never feel fully in charge of your life until you feel in charge of your day. That's where it begins. Not in the big goals, not in the grand plans, but in how you use your hours, in how you treat the small windows of time that everyone else wastes. Don't aim to be busy, aim to be in control. Aim to look at the clock and know exactly what you gave your time to, and know that it was worth it. That it was in line with your values, that it moved your life in the direction you've been wanting to go. Because time will pass, either way. The only question is, will it be used by you or taken from you? Will you end the day proud or full of regret? Will your mind feel clear or cluttered by all the things you ignored? Start now. Before the day gets loud, before your phone starts buzzing, before the world asks for your attention. Sit down. Breathe. Decide. What matters today? What must get done no matter what? What's the one thing that, if finished, would make today a win? That's how you win back your mind. That's how you stop being at the mercy of everything around you. You don't need to escape. You don't need to cancel your responsibilities. You just need to step into them with clarity, with strength, with control. And that control doesn't come from outside. It comes from you. From choosing to act with intention. From deciding that your life is too important to be managed by chaos. Take the lead. Set the pace. Own the day. Before it owns you, and everything in your life will start to follow. Chapter 7. Become the person who finishes what they start. Most people are good at starting. Starting doesn't take much. You get an idea, you feel excited, and you begin. That part is easy. That part feels good. The world is full of people who start, but very few finish. That's where the real difference is made. Finishing takes something else. It takes grit. It takes follow-through. It takes a decision to keep going after the emotion wears off, after the excitement disappears, after the results take longer than expected. Finishing is where strength is built. It's where you learn to lead yourself. And if you want to live a life you're proud of, you must become the person who finishes what they start. The habit of quitting is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps in little by little. You start skipping steps. You put off the work. You tell yourself you'll get back to it later. Then, days pass, and what once mattered begins to fade. The goal you were so committed to slips into the background, and before you know it, it becomes another unfinished thing collecting dust in your life. This doesn't just hurt your progress, it damages your self-respect. Because every time you quit, even silently, a part of you knows it. A part of you keeps the score. The person who finishes what they start doesn't have more motivation. They've just trained themselves to show up, whether they feel like it or not. They've built the muscle of discipline, and they've stopped treating their goals like options. They don't negotiate with their commitment. They stay in the process. Even when it's slow, even when nobody notices, even when they're not sure how it will work out, they keep showing up, and you can become that person. But it takes honesty. You have to look at your life and admit where you've stopped short, where you gave up when things got inconvenient, where you let distractions become more important than progress. You have to be real with yourself about what you've been avoiding, and why. It's not about shame, it's about awareness. Because if you're not finishing things, you're never giving yourself the chance to change. The finish line isn't just about the result. It's about who you become by reaching it. Every time you finish something you start, you prove that your word means something. You prove that you don't just talk, you follow through. That creates trust, and trust in yourself is one of the most powerful things you can build. When you trust yourself to finish, you take on bigger goals. You stop doubting your ability. You stop second-guessing every decision. You stop carrying around unfinished energy that drags your mindset down. But that trust is earned, and it's earned one decision at a time. Finish the book you started. Complete the workout you began. Wrap up the project you said you'd do. Even if nobody sees it. Even if it feels small. These small finishes are the training ground. They build the mental toughness required for bigger things. Finishing doesn't mean everything goes perfectly. It means you don't back out when it gets uncomfortable. It means you adjust when plans fall apart. But you don't disappear. It means you find a way forward, even if it's slower than you wanted. And that attitude, that standard, is what separates average lives from exceptional ones. You don't have to finish everything in one go, but you do have to return to what matters. Most people quit when results don't show up fast enough. But lasting results take time. They take consistency. They take showing up long after the motivation fades. And the only way to build that kind of consistency is to make finishing a requirement, not an option. Don't start things just to feel good in the moment. Start them because you've decided that your goals matter enough to be completed. And if something no longer matters, close it with intention. Don't leave things half done. Don't leave loose ends that clutter your mind. Be the person who brings things to completion, one way or another. This builds momentum. It sharpens your focus. When you make finishing your habit, your life gets cleaner. Your energy becomes more powerful. You stop leaking time and attention into 100 half-built things. You start moving forward with clarity and purpose. Look around your life. What have you left incomplete? What have you started with energy and then abandoned when it got tough? Bring those things back into view. Pick one, finish it. Not because it's easy, but because you're becoming someone who finishes. That's the mindset that transforms everything. And don't wait for perfect conditions. Waiting kills progress. There will always be reasons to pause. Life will always get busy. But the people who finish don't wait for ideal timing. They work with what they have. They carve out time. They say no to distractions. They take small steps when big ones aren't possible. But they keep moving. You don't have to race. You don't have to do it all at once. But you do have to refuse to stop. Because finishing isn't about speed. It's about staying. It's about sticking with something long enough to see it through. It's about having the patience to let progress build, layer by layer. People respect finishers. The world rewards people who follow through. But more important than what others think is how you feel about yourself. There's a confidence that comes only from completion. A deep sense of peace that comes from knowing you don't walk away just because it's hard. You become reliable. You become someone others can count on. And more importantly, you become someone you can count on. That's the foundation of strength. That's how you become resilient. Not by getting everything right, but by finishing what you started. This applies to everything. Your health, your goals, your relationships, your routine. Every time you complete something you said you would, you reinforce your identity. You make it harder to quit next time. You make it easier to believe in your own word. If you want to change your life, stop chasing new starts. Start finishing the things that already matter. Pick up the things you dropped. Bring them to completion. And when new things come your way, make sure you're not starting out of impulse. Start with intention. Start with the decision that you'll see it through. The finish line teaches you things the starting line never can. It shows you who you've become. It gives you the results you earned. And it builds the foundation for your next goal. But none of that happens if you keep stopping halfway. You don't need more motivation. You need a decision. A personal standard that says, if I start it, I finish it. That standard creates strength. That standard eliminates doubt. That standard turns potential into power. So make that your new identity. Not just someone who tries, not just someone who starts strong, but someone who follows through. Someone who stays focused, someone who pushes past the urge to quit. That's who you become when you commit to finishing. And when you live like that, when you start holding yourself to that level, everything begins to change. Your progress compounds, your mindset sharpens, your life gets simpler, cleaner, more powerful, because now you're not dragging around unfinished energy. You're not carrying the weight of things left undone. You're clear. You're focused. You're becoming everything you said you would. And all it took was the decision to finish what you started.
Chapter 8. Make your choices match your biggest life goals. Every decision you make pushes you closer to your goals or pulls you further away. It's that simple. But most people never stop to think that way. They live on autopilot. They do what's easy. They react to whatever comes their way. And then they wonder why they're stuck. They wonder why their goals feel far, why nothing really changes, why the years pass without real progress. The reason is simple. There's a gap between what they say they want and the choices they make every day. If you say your biggest goal is to build a strong body, but you keep choosing junk food and skipping exercise, your choices are not aligned. If you say you want financial freedom, but you spend recklessly and avoid the hard work, you're out of alignment. If you say you want peace, but keep choosing drama, conflict and toxic habits,
you're not serious about your goal, and the longer that misalignment continues, the more frustrated you become. Not because you're failing, but because deep down, you know you're not being honest with yourself. You can't fake alignment. Your life reflects what you truly choose, not what you say you want. Saying you want something means nothing if your actions don't back it up. The results you're getting right now are a reflection of the standards you're actually living by, not the ones you talk about. The way you spend your time, your money, your attention and your energy, it all matters. Every small decision adds up, and if your choices don't reflect the future you say you're building, then you're not building it. You're only talking about it. That's the hard truth most people avoid. They keep setting big goals, but they never examine the small behaviors, and that's where the real change happens. In the details, in the daily decisions, in the moment when you choose discipline over distraction, in the instant you choose purpose over comfort. You don't need more goals, you need more alignment. You need to look at your life honestly and ask, does this choice help me become who I want to be? And you need to ask that question every day, because life is full of temptations, full of distractions, full of easy paths that lead nowhere. If you're not intentional, you'll end up far from where you intended to go. It's not about being perfect, it's about being clear. When you're clear on what you want, the right choices become obvious. They might not be easy, but they're obvious. You'll know what to say yes to and what to walk away from. You'll stop wasting time on things that don't match your direction, and that alone can change your entire life. It's time to stop making decisions based on impulse. It's time to stop letting mood decide your mood. If your goal is important, it deserves consistent action. It deserves thought. It deserves your focus. It deserves to be treated with seriousness. You have to protect your goals with better choices, because every choice is either feeding your progress or feeding your regret. There's no neutral zone. Skipping the gym doesn't just mean you missed a workout. It means you chose something else over your health. Scrolling instead of working on your craft isn't just wasting time, it's choosing to delay your dream. Saying yes to every invitation, every distraction, every emotional reaction, it's a choice, and those choices have a cost. The most successful people in the world don't have more time than you. They're not making random decisions. They've built a filter, and that filter is simple. Does this support the life I want, or does it pull me away from it? If it doesn't serve the vision, they don't entertain it. Not because they're disciplined robots, but because they've learnt the cost of misaligned choices. You've got to start thinking long-term. Start asking yourself if what you're doing today supports where you want to be. A year from now, 5 years from now, because that future is coming, whether you're ready or not. And if your habits don't match your goals don't stand a chance. You can't build a strong life with weak decisions. You can't create excellence with average effort. It's not about pushing yourself to extremes. It's about consistency. Real change doesn't require perfection. It requires repetition. If your choices support your goal more often than not, you start moving in the right direction. That momentum builds, and before you know it, your life starts to reflect the person you've been becoming. But if you keep choosing comfort, if you keep choosing ease, if you keep making decisions that contradict your vision, then all you're doing is delaying what you could have now. And the worst part is, you'll always know it. That quiet disappointment builds. You start to lose respect for your own word. You stop believing your goals are possible. Not because they're out of reach, but because your actions never lined up. That can change. It starts with one decision, one moment of clarity, one shift in how you approach your day. Ask yourself right now, what are the biggest goals in your life? And then ask, what did I choose today? Did my choices serve those goals? If the answer is no, don't beat yourself up, but don't ignore it either. Use it. Use it to realign. Use it to make a better choice next time. That's how growth happens. The people who succeed aren't lucky. They're intentional. They've made a decision to live in alignment. And you can too. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect circumstance. You just need to get honest about what matters to you. And then build your life around it. That means planning your time better. That means saying no more often. That means removing things from your life that don't belong. That means choosing progress over convenience. That means thinking twice before you act, and making sure your behavior matches your ambition. It's not flashy. It's not always fun, but it works, because when your life starts reflecting your goals, you feel different. You feel focused. You feel confident. You stop questioning yourself. You stop wondering if you're doing enough. You know you are, because your calendar, your habits, your energy, your choices, they all say so. That kind of alignment is powerful. It makes you unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you become someone who can handle it, someone who shows up with clarity, someone who leads their life instead of reacting to it. So if your goals really matter, prove it. Let your choices reflect it. Let your days back it up. Let your effort match your words, because talk is cheap. Goals without aligned action are just wishes, and you weren't made to live a life of almosts and maybes. You were made to grow. You were made to create. You were made to chase something real and catch it. That starts now, not next year, not when you feel ready. Now, look at your habits, look at your routine, look at how you spend your evenings, your mornings, your breaks, your weekends. It all adds up. Every decision is a vote, and those votes create your future. Make sure you're voting for the future you want. Make sure your actions cast a clear message. I'm serious about this, not because you're perfect, but because you've decided that your life is worth showing up for, that your goals are worth fighting for, that your dreams are worth building through discipline. And once you start living that way, you'll never go back, because now you know the difference. Now you know how it feels to live with integrity, to be proud of your direction, to trust yourself again. That's the reward of alignment. That's what happens when your choices finally match your biggest goal. You become the kind of person who not only dreams, but delivers, and your life begins to reflect everything you once hoped it would, one aligned decision at a time. Chapter 9. Stand up for yourself, even when it's tough. Most people struggle to stand up for themselves, not because they don't know what's right, but because they're afraid of what will happen if they do. They worry about being judged. They fear rejection. They don't want to create tension, so they stay quiet. They let people talk over them. They say yes when they mean no. They tolerate disrespect. They lower their standards, and every time they do, something inside them breaks. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly, they start to lose connection with who they really are. When you avoid speaking up, you teach others how to treat you. You tell them it's okay to dismiss your needs. You tell them you don't expect respect, and even worse, you start believing it yourself. Your self-worth begins to slip, not because someone took it from you, but because you gave it away, one silent moment at a time. That's how people lose their voice, not by being forced into silence, but by choosing it out of fear. If you want to live a strong life, you must learn to stand up for yourself, not just when it's easy, not just when it's safe, especially when it's tough, when your voice shakes, when your heart races, when it would be easier to avoid the conflict. That's when it matters most. That's when you grow. That's when you become someone who can look in the mirror and say, I've got my own back. Standing up for yourself doesn't mean shouting. It doesn't mean being rude. It means being clear, being firm, being honest. It means knowing your values and refusing to shrink for anyone. It means saying what needs to be said, even when you know it won't be received well. It means drawing boundaries that protect your peace, even if they upset people. It means standing in your truth, when it would be easier to stay liked than to stay real. The world won't always make it easy. There will be pressure to stay quiet. People will try to push you into comfort zones that don't belong to you. They'll expect you to go along, to stay agreeable, to not make waves. But if you always do what makes others comfortable, you'll end up deeply uncomfortable with yourself. That's the price of approval. It often comes at the cost of self-respect. And there's nothing more painful than knowing you didn't speak when it mattered, that you let someone cross a line and didn't say a word, that you swallowed your truth because you didn't want to make a scene. But here's the truth. Your peace is worth the discomfort. Your growth is worth the tension. Your dignity is worth the risk. You don't become strong by always being agreeable. You become strong by standing on your own 2 feet. By saying no when something isn't right, by asking for what you deserve, by refusing to play small just to keep the room calm. This is especially true when you're going through a tough season. That's when it's hardest to speak up, when your energy is low, when you're unsure of yourself, when you're still figuring things out. But that's also when it matters most. That's when you need to stand tall and protect what you're building. Even if your voice cracks, even if your legs shake, do it anyway. Because the moment you start standing up for yourself, everything shifts. You stop waiting for permission. You stop explaining your worth. You stop depending on others to give you space. You start creating your own, and people begin to see the difference. They notice the way you carry yourself, the way you don't tolerate being talked down to, the way you move with quiet authority. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. But make no mistake, it's hard. Sometimes the people you love won't understand. Sometimes you'll lose relationships. Sometimes people will call you difficult. But that's okay. Let them. Because any relationship that requires you to stay silent is not a real relationship. It's a performance, and you weren't born to perform. You were born to live your truth, even when it's not convenient. When you make standing up for yourself a habit, you build a foundation that no one can take from you. You begin to live from the inside out, not the outside in. You stop chasing validation and start giving it to yourself. And that kind of self-respect is rare. It's powerful. It can't be faked. You'll also notice that standing up for yourself in one area helps you in every other. When you start drawing lines in your relationships, you also start doing it with your time, with your goals, with your habits. You stop tolerating laziness. You stop giving your energy to people who drain you. You stop accepting less than what you deserve from others and from yourself. This shift isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It happens in quiet moments, when you say no without guilt, when you ask for space without apology, when you walk away from what doesn't serve you. That's power, not the kind that needs attention, but the kind that gives you your life back. Most importantly, you start to feel like yourself again. You stop living by other people's rules. You stop feeling like you're constantly trying to keep the peace while sacrificing your own. You become grounded, focused, free, and you realize that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. You can't be fully present in life if you're always bending to please others. There's courage in honesty. There's strength in discomfort. There's freedom in truth. And when you live that way, you inspire others to do the same. You show people what it looks like to live with integrity, to speak without fear, to move through the world without hiding. You weren't made to blend in. You weren't made to say yes to things that drain your soul. You weren't made to carry the weight of everyone's expectations while ignoring your own needs. You were made to lead your life, to set the tone, to be your own advocate. This doesn't mean you become cold. It means you become clear. It means you stop confusing kindness with self-sacrifice. It means you stop allowing others to decide what's acceptable for you. And it means that when the moment comes, and it will come, you'll speak, even if your voice is the only one in the room. That kind of strength takes practice. You won't get it right every time, but every time you speak when it's hard, you grow. Every time you draw a boundary, you rise. Every time you choose truth over approval, you become more of who you're meant to be. So don't stay silent. Don't water yourself down. Don't keep shrinking just to avoid discomfort. Stand clearly. Live honestly, even when it's tough, especially when it's tough. That's the path to a life you respect, a life that feels like your own, a life that reflects the strength you've had inside all along. Chapter 10. Live every day like there is no second chance. Most people walk through their days like they have forever. They treat time like it's guaranteed. They act like they can waste today and make up for it tomorrow. They live casually, not urgently. But there's a cost to that mindset. A day wasted is a day gone, not stored, not paused, gone. And too many people learn that lesson when it's too late. Not because they weren't warned, but because they never truly looked at how short life really is. You don't get to replay time. You don't get to relive a morning. You don't get to redo a conversation you avoided. You don't get a second try at how you showed up today. That's the reality most people don't want to face. But if you're serious about living fully, you must face it. You must live like this is your only shot. Because it is. When you understand that every day is a non-refundable investment, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop arguing over petty things. You stop postponing the changes you know you need to make. You stop putting off the conversation you've been avoiding. You stop saying, "I'll start next week," and you begin asking, "Why not now?" That's the shift that wakes people up. That's when life becomes urgent, not stressful but meaningful. You start to feel your time, not just count it. You feel the weight of a day. You understand that how you spend your time is how you spend your life. And once that hits you, everything changes. You don't wake up to scroll anymore. You wake up to do something that matters. You don't drift through routines half asleep. You show up with presence, with intention, with the mindset that this day will never come again, and that's reason enough to live it fully. Living like there's no second chance doesn't mean rushing. It doesn't mean trying to do everything at once. It means doing what matters with full effort. It means showing up in conversations, not checking out. It means taking care of your body today, not next year. It means telling people how you really feel instead of assuming they'll always be around to hear it later. Think about how much you've already put off in life. Projects, decisions, apologies, new habits, real conversations. How many of those things are still waiting because you've convinced yourself that later will be better? But later is not promised. It never has been. And when you realize that deeply, not just understand it in your mind, but feel it in your gut, you begin to live differently. You stop waiting for inspiration to strike. You start taking action. You stop depending on motivation. You move because you know time isn't slowing down for you. You become someone who doesn't just talk about the future. They build it now, every day, with the hours they've got. There are people who've spent the last 5 years saying they're going to change. They're still saying it, still planning, still thinking, still stalling, because they believe they have time. But what they really have is avoidance. And the truth is, one day they'll wake up and realize the future they kept waiting for is gone. Not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't act when they had the chance. Don't let that be your story. Don't keep postponing your best self. Don't keep waiting for the perfect day. It's not coming. Life doesn't slow down so you can catch up. You either start now, or you stay where you are. That's the choice. You don't need to do something dramatic. You need to do something real, something honest, something that aligns with the kind of life you want to live. One action today, one choice, one shift in focus. That's how it starts. You start stacking days of intention, days of presence, days of effort, and slowly those days become your new life. If today was your last, how would you live it? What would you say? Who would you spend time with? What would you finally start? What would you stop tolerating? These aren't dramatic questions. They're practical, because one day, the answer won't be hypothetical. One day, it will be real, and you won't get a warning. You won't get a reminder that this is your last chance to show up. That's why today matters. That's why every morning deserves your full attention. Not because you're afraid, but because you care. Because you've decided that your time is valuable enough to be used well. That your life is meaningful enough to be lived intentionally. That you're done wasting hours on things that don't help you grow. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. Begin with the way you talk to yourself. Begin with the way you take care of your responsibilities. Begin with the people you surround yourself with. Begin with the way you show up when no one's watching. Begin with the part of you that knows you're capable of more and stop ignoring that voice. You've got more in you. More discipline, more focus, more love, more potential. But you'll never see it until you start using the time you've got like it matters. The window for transformation doesn't stay open forever. And you'll never get back the time you've wasted. But you can stop wasting more of it. You can draw the line. You can say, that version of me that delays, avoids, and settles, he's done, he's gone. He's not leading anymore. That's how new versions of yourself are born. Not by waiting, not by thinking, by doing, by choosing differently. Right now, by acting like this is your one shot to live it right, because it is. You won't get another version of this day. You won't get another version of this moment. You won't get another chance to show up as the person you've been pretending you're going to become someday. That person doesn't show up unless you bring them into today. They don't appear out of thin air. You build them. You decide to live with urgency, with awareness, with strength, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. There's nothing more frustrating than having dreams you don't act on. There's nothing more exhausting than carrying goals you never move toward. That weight gets heavy, but the good news is, you can drop it. You can replace it with action, with consistency, with clarity. You can choose to make today count, not in theory, but in reality. The habits you build now will shape what your future feels like. The way you spend your energy today will determine whether you feel regret or pride when you look back. The way you speak to others, the way you move through challenges, the way you face your own limits. All of it matters, and it's happening now. You don't need a dramatic breakthrough. You need a shift in perspective. From waiting to doing, from hoping to deciding, from dreaming to building. One day at a time, 1 hour at a time. That's how it's done. You'll never regret living fully. You'll never regret using your time with care. You'll never regret saying what needed to be said. You'll never regret showing up when you didn't feel like it. You'll never regret doing the hard thing instead of the easy one. But you will regret putting it off. You will regret staying quiet. You will regret waiting for the perfect time. The clock doesn't stop. The days don't repeat. Life moves forward with or without your permission. But you get to decide if you're going to meet it with purpose, or if you're going to sit back and watch it pass. That decision is yours, and you make it every day. So live today like it's your only chance, because it is, not in fear, in power, in full awareness of what a gift it is to be here, and in full commitment to making the most of it. Not tomorrow, not someday, now, always now.